the refusal. I still remember the exact moment it happened. The smell of roasted coffee. The sound of laughter from the corner booth. The way the world seemed to stop for just a few seconds, right before everything inside me changed. It was supposed to be a normal morning. I had just finished another long night at the auto shop. Grease still under my nails, my shirt wrinkled, and my wallet almost empty. I was exhausted, hungry, and broke, but hopeful. Hopeful that maybe, just maybe, the world would give me a small break that day. The restaurant had always looked expensive from the outside. Tall glass windows, velvet curtains, and a gold sign that read, "The Willow House." It was the kind of place people went to close business deals, celebrate promotions, or show off money they didn't have. But that morning, all I wanted was a plate of eggs and a cup of coffee. When I walked in, I could feel eyes turned toward me. My work boots left small marks on the polished floor. My jacket, old and frayed, looked painfully out of place among the tailored suits and silk blouses. Still, I smiled politely and found an empty table near the window. I waited and waited. Minutes passed. The waitress, a woman in her mid-30s with sharp eyes and perfect lipstick, walked past me 3 times without stopping. She served others, laughed at their jokes, and refilled their glasses. But when her gaze flicked toward me, it was cold. Quick, like I was a stain she didn't want to see. Finally, I raised my hand. "Excuse me," I said gently. "Could I get a menu?" She stopped, crossed her arms, and tilted her head. "Are you sure you can afford this place?" she asked. Her tone was dripping with disdain, but the real sting was in her smile, that smirk people give when they've already decided who you are. I froze. My throat tightened. "I just want some breakfast," I said quietly. She scoffed. "We're full right now. Maybe try somewhere down the street. There's a diner that might be more your style." The words hit harder than I expected. The laughter from the nearby table, the pitying glances, the quiet whispers, they all blended into one cruel echo. Before I could respond, she turned and walked away. I left the restaurant without saying another word. The cold morning air stung my face. Every step I took away from that door felt heavier. I'd been poor my whole life. That part wasn't new. But being treated like I didn't deserve to exist, that cut deeper than anything. I sat on a park bench nearby and tried to hold myself together. My stomach growled. My hands were shaking, not from hunger, but from humiliation. For years, I'd worked hard, fixing cars, taking side jobs, saving every dollar I could. I was invisible, but I never complained. I thought if I kept my head down and did the right thing, the world would eventually see me. But that morning I realized something. The world doesn't see you until you make it impossible to ignore you. I took out my small, cracked phone and opened a message from my best friend, Elijah. He had sent me a link to a property auction happening the next day, a list of failing businesses being sold for cheap. I scrolled through half-heartedly until my heart nearly stopped. The Willow House restaurant. Starting bid, $75,000. I blinked. Was this a joke? I reread the listing again and again. The same restaurant. The same golden sign. The same place that refused to serve me. I stared at the screen for a long time. It was insane. I didn't have that kind of money. Not even close. But something inside me whispered, "What if you could?" That whisper became a pulse. Then a heartbeat. Then a roar. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my tiny kitchen table with my laptop open, every old document and contact I'd ever saved flashing before me. Years ago, I'd built an engine prototype, an eco-friendly design that no investor believed in. But over the last year, one small startup had begun showing interest. They had emailed me a few weeks back, offering to buy partial rights. At the time, I said no. It felt too soon, too risky. But now it felt like fate was calling. By 3 a.m., I drafted the agreement. I sold my design for half of what it was worth, but it was enough to cover the auction's down payment. I didn't even hesitate. I clicked send. When dawn came, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized a man staring back at me. His eyes were tired, but alive, burning with something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The next day, I stood in the back of that auction hall, surrounded by men in suits and women with diamond watches. I didn't belong there, and everyone knew it. But this time, I didn't care. When the auctioneer's voice called, Lot 34, the Willow House restaurant, my hand went up before I could even think. The bid started high. Too high, but luck, or maybe something greater, was on my side. One by one, the others dropped out, and then, suddenly, the room went quiet. Sold. To bidder number 27. My heart stopped. That was me. It was over. Just like that. The restaurant that had refused to serve me was now mine. That night, I walked back to Willow House. It was closed, lights off, empty, but in that darkness, I saw everything. I saw myself sitting at that table again, waiting for someone to acknowledge me. I saw the faces that laughed, the waitress's sneer, the version of me who had walked out, humiliated. But this time, I didn't walk away. I placed my hand on the glass door and whispered, "You'll never treat anyone like that again." I spent the next few days inside that building alone, cleaning tables and peeling back the layers of its arrogance. Every stain I scrubbed felt like erasing a piece of the past. Every chair I straightened felt like taking back something that had been stolen from me. When the waitress came in for her morning shift 3 days later and saw me standing behind the counter, the look on her face was priceless. "Can I help you?" she asked, confused. I smiled calmly. "No," I said. "Actually, I own the place now." Her mouth fell open. The color drained from her face. I don't understand," she stammered. "You don't have to," I said softly. "Just know this. The next time someone walks through that door, you serve them with respect, because you never know who they'll become tomorrow." She stood frozen as I walked past her, sunlight flooding the lobby behind me. I didn't fire her. Not yet, because I wanted her and everyone else to see what it looked like when the man they once ignored rebuilt his life, piece by piece, from the ashes of their laughter. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The rebuild, the morning after the purchase, I stood in front of the Willow House again, but this time it felt different. The golden letters no longer gleamed. The windows looked dull, the curtains heavy. The restaurant that had once made me feel small now looked tired, like it knew its reign was over. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of old perfume, spilled wine, and arrogance. It was quiet, except for the soft creak of the floorboards. Somehow, I could still feel the echo of laughter. Hers, theirs, everyone who had once looked down on me. I stood in the middle of the dining room, took a deep breath, and said out loud, "We start over." That's how it began, not as revenge, but as redemption. The first few days were chaos. The former staff walked in, each one staring at me with disbelief. They whispered behind my back, their eyes darting between me and the manager, a man named Richard, who clearly thought I wouldn't last a week. "This place runs on reputation," he told me bluntly. "You might own it, but people like you don't run restaurants like this." I looked him straight in the eyes. "Then maybe it's time this place changes what it stands for." He didn't respond. He just smirked, the same smirk the waitress had given me days earlier. That smirk would become the fuel that kept me working late into the night. I called Elijah my best friend, the one who'd sent me the auction link. He arrived the next morning, wearing his usual wide grin and hoodie that read, "Dreams don't expire." "Bro," he said, staring up at the sign, "you actually did it. You bought the damn restaurant." "I did," I said. "Now help me figure out how not to destroy it." He laughed. "Step 1, fire everyone who ever looked at you funny." I chuckled. Tempting. But no. Step 1 is to change what this place means. The Willow House is no longer going to be for the rich. It's going to be for the real ones, people like us, people who've been ignored. Elijah raised an eyebrow. "You're turning a luxury restaurant into a working-class cafe." "Not just a cafe," I said. "A statement." The first sign of resistance came fast. The waitress, the same one who'd refused to serve me, came into my office with crossed arms. "Is this your way of getting back at me?" she snapped. "Humiliating me?" I looked at her. "No, this is my way of teaching you what respect looks like." Her jaw tightened. You don't belong in this business. Maybe not, I said, but I belong in this building, and that's enough. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I expected to feel satisfaction. I didn't. Instead, I felt something else, a strange emptiness. Revenge tasted sweet for a moment, but bitter after it lingered. Over the next few weeks, the renovation began. We stripped the crystal chandeliers, replaced the marble tables with wood, and turned the wine cellar into a community dining area. People called me crazy. Some even laughed. Again, this guy turned a fine dining restaurant into a charity project. Someone wrote online. I didn't care. For the first time in years, I wasn't just working for money. I was building something that mattered. Every morning, I watched the sunrise through those same windows where I'd once sat, ignored. Now, I was the first to greet the cleaning crew, the delivery drivers, the workers who kept the city alive but never got a thank you. We served affordable food. We hired locals. We built partnerships with shelters to train people who needed a second chance. And every night, when I locked up, I'd whisper to myself, "You're not here for revenge. You're here to rebuild." But life doesn't let you rebuild without testing what you're made of. About a month after reopening, a customer walked in, tall, well-dressed, with the kind of confidence money buys. He ordered, ate quietly, and left. The next day, a lawyer showed up with a letter. It was a cease and desist. Apparently, the previous owner, the restaurant's founding investor, still held naming rights to the Willow House. He wanted it back. I was furious. He abandoned this place. I told the lawyer. He left it to rot. The lawyer shrugged. Doesn't matter. He has money. You don't. That night, I sat in the dark restaurant, staring at the empty tables. I could feel the same helplessness I'd felt that morning when the waitress refused to serve me. It was like life was testing me. You've come this far. Let's see if you can keep going. Elijah showed up with 2 coffees and sat across from me. You okay, man? I sighed. Feels like no matter how much I build, someone's always waiting to take it away. He took a sip of his drink, then build something they can't take. Change the name. Change the meaning. Make it yours. His words hit me hard. 2 weeks later, the golden sign came down. In its place, a new one went up, painted in black and copper. The Second Chance. That name changed everything. People started talking about it, not as a restaurant, but as a movement. We trained single mothers. We hired ex-convicts. We partnered with schools to teach kids culinary skills. And slowly, something incredible happened. The same people who once laughed began to admire. The same woman who once refused to serve me started showing up early, smiling as she poured coffee for construction workers and nurses. She was changing, too. One evening, as we closed, she approached me. I was wrong about you, she said quietly. About everything. I looked at her for a long time. It's not about being wrong, I said. It's about growing. She nodded, eyes wet. Thank you for not firing me. I smiled. Thank you for learning. The following month, the restaurant story went viral. A journalist wrote, once a symbol of elitism, the Willow House has been reborn as the Second Chance. Proof that dignity can change lives. Calls came from everywhere, investors, nonprofits, even city officials. Everyone wanted to know how I'd done it, but I didn't have an answer. All I had was a memory of that one morning, the humiliation that had started it all, and a belief that pain could be the beginning of purpose. One night, as I was locking up, I noticed an envelope slipped under the door. It was plain, no name on it. Inside was a note that read, "You've done well, but are you ready for what's next?" There was no signature, just a phone number and a single word beneath it, opportunity. I looked around, half expecting someone to be watching. The street was empty, silent. A chill ran down my spine. I didn't recognize the number, but something told me that calling it would change everything. That night, I lay awake, staring at my ceiling. The same hunger that had once driven me to buy the restaurant was stirring again. I had built something beautiful. But maybe this was just the beginning, because life wasn't done testing me. Not yet. The opportunity. The note stayed on my desk for days. I would pick it up, read it again, and every time my eyes reached the last line, "Are you ready for what's next?" my chest tightened a little more. I told myself to throw it away. Life was good now. The restaurant was thriving, the community loved it, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. But at night, when the lights were off and the streets outside fell silent, that one word whispered in my mind: opportunity. On the seventh night, I dialed a number. It rang twice. Then a deep, calm voice answered, "Mr. Carter, I was wondering when you'd call." I froze. Who is this? Let's just say I'm someone who's been watching your story unfold. You turned humiliation into transformation, and that's rare. I have a proposition for you. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m. at the Grandview Hotel, Suite 804. The line went dead. I stared at the phone for a long moment. My gut said, don't go. But curiosity, that stubborn spark that had driven me since the day I bought the restaurant, whispered louder, go see what this is. The next morning, I put on my best suit, the one I'd worn when I signed the purchase papers, the one that still reminded me of the man I used to be, nervous, desperate, trying to prove something. Now I walk with purpose. The Grandview Hotel was as polished as ever. Marble floors, chandeliers that looked like falling stars. The receptionist's smile was too practiced to be real. I almost laughed, remembering how once I couldn't even afford to breathe the same air in places like this. When I knocked on Suite 804, the door opened to a tall man with silver hair and eyes sharp enough to cut through glass. "Mr. Carter," he said, offering a firm handshake. "I'm Charles Beaumont. I represent a group of investors interested in what you built." I stepped inside. The room smelled like money, quiet, heavy, expensive. He gestured for me to sit. "Let's get straight to the point. We want to franchise a second chance. Expand it nationally. 10 cities in 12 months. My heart skipped. Franchise? That's huge. He smiled. Exactly. You've tapped into something the market's never seen. Socially conscious fine dining. You bring heart. We bring funding. Together, we could change the game. I leaned back, trying to process. 10 cities. 12 months. A national movement. The boy who'd been denied service was now being offered an empire. But then Charles leaned forward, his tone lowering. Of course, to make it scalable, some adjustments would be needed. Efficiency, consistency, branding. You understand. What kind of adjustments? I asked carefully. He smiled thinly. Well, your current model, hiring ex-convicts, underprivileged staff. It's admirable but risky. We'd need professionals. Real chefs, trained servers, management with pedigree. My jaw tightened. So, the people who made the second chance, what it is, wouldn't have a place in it. He didn't blink. You'd have full creative control in theory. But in practice, we'd need to protect the investment. You'd be the face, the inspiring founder. Leave the rest to us. The silence between us stretched. I could hear the hum of the air conditioner, the distant clink of dishes from the hotel restaurant below. He slid a folder across the table. Take it. Review it. The initial offer is 7 figures. That's life-changing money, Mr. Carter. 7 figures. I could pay off debts, buy my mother the house she always dreamed of, invest in new ventures. It was everything I had ever wanted, everything I thought success meant. But something about the way he said, you'd be the face, made my stomach turn. I took the folder and left without another word. That night, I sat in my restaurant. Lights off, the faint scent of coffee still lingering in the air. I looked at the walls, the worn tables, the mismatched chairs. Every imperfection told a story of the people who'd rebuilt their lives here. Maria, the single mother who now managed the kitchen. Trey, who'd spent 10 years in prison but found purpose in baking bread at dawn. Even Anna, the waitress who once refused to serve me, now ran the customer service training for all new hires. This place wasn't perfect, but it was real. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about meaning. And yet, I couldn't sleep, because the truth was, I was scared. What if the second chance could be more? What if turning down the offer meant letting my fear of change stop me again? The next day, I brought the folder to Elijah. He skimmed through it, then looked at me. You're not really considering this, are you? I don't know, I said honestly. It's a chance to expand, to help more people. He leaned back, crossing his arms. Or it's a chance for them to use your story to sell a lie. I sighed. You think I'm selling out? I think you're forgetting who you are, he said quietly. You built this from pain, from truth. The moment you trade that for profit, you lose everything that made this place powerful. His words hit like a punch. Do you remember, he continued, what you said when you first opened this place? You said you weren't doing this for revenge. You were doing it to rebuild. So ask yourself, what are you building now? For days, I avoided the decision. The investors called, emailed, sent representatives. Charles even showed up one evening, saying softly, You have a gift, Michael. Don't waste it on small dreams. But maybe small dreams were where real change lived. Finally, I called him. Mr. Beaumont, I said, my voice steady. I appreciate the offer. Truly. But the second chance isn't a product. It's a purpose. And some things are meant to be franchised. There was a long pause. Then his voice dropped, low and almost threatening. You're making a mistake. Maybe, I said, but at least it's mine. And I hung up. The next morning, I arrived at the restaurant to find the front window shattered. Graffiti covered the walls. Fake hero, fraud, useless. The word hit me like a memory. Useless. The same word that had once defined me. For a moment, I felt that old pain rising again. The humiliation, the anger, the doubt. Elijah showed up, jaw clenched. We'll clean it up, he said. I nodded slowly. No, leave it for today. He looked confused. Why? I stared at the word painted across the glass. Because I want people to see what we're still fighting. That night, hundreds of locals showed up, not to eat, but to help. They cleaned, painted, donated supplies. The next morning, the restaurant looked new again. Above the door, someone had spray-painted a message in gold. Still standing. Months passed. The restaurant flourished, not because of fame or money, but because people believed in it. The story spread again, not as a viral headline, but as something deeper, a symbol of resilience. One afternoon, as I watched customers laugh and eat, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was Anna, the waitress. There's someone asking for you, she said softly. He says you'll remember him. I turned, and there he was, Charles Beaumont. He looked older, tired. You were right, he said quietly. Your kind of business, it can't be replicated. It has to be lived. He smiled faintly, placing an envelope on the table. No contracts this time, just an invitation. Something's happening, a new project. You want to see this? Then he left, disappearing into crowd. I opened the envelope. Inside was a plane ticket one way to Nairobi, Kenya. On the back, a handwritten note read, Every second chance deserves a beginning somewhere else. That night, I sat alone again in the same seat where it had all started, the same spot where I'd once been refused service. I looked around at the full tables, the laughter, the warmth. This place had healed me, but maybe now it was time to see who else needed healing. I didn't know what awaited me across the ocean. All I knew was this. Sometimes, opportunity doesn't knock for success. It knocks for service. And this time, I was ready to answer